Meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Please direct your attention to Selectman Larry Ryan for the Pledge of Allegiance. Larry, do the honors.
Okay, wait a minute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beautiful.
Thank you, Larry. Good evening and welcome. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon Channel 31. It's also available live online at www.wrpsrockland.com/TV and within 24 hours via video on demand at www.youtube.com/WRPSRockland. Please go to www.wrpsrockland.com for further information. Okay, first on the agenda, community announcements. Healthcare Workers of the Week. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. If I can, before I do the announcements that are printed, I had a couple others I wanted to mention as well. The first is the warrant for the annual town meeting will be open tomorrow, January 20th. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge the opening of the warrant. And then the next one, this comes from the town clerk's office. It's regarding the annual dog contest, which they're going to do a little bit differently this year because of COVID. So I'd like to read a brief bit of PR that the clerk's office has put out. In the past few years, we've asked for a picture of your top dog and displayed them in town hall so all could see, but the world is a little different. We've decided this year is the year to honor our town's four-legged essential workers. We have 3 canine police partners who are always at the ready to do their jobs and help keep us safe. So this year we declare them to be Rockland's top dogs. We also want to salute the personal top dogs who live in our homes. So we're asking that you send their pictures so we can honor them too. The new ones, the seasoned ones, the big ones, the small ones, the ones who have kept us sane and maybe driven us a little crazy, but those who we wouldn't change for the world. Send along a picture or email one so we can give them the credit they deserve. Share with us and we'll share too. So you can email photos of your dogs to the town clerk's office at clerkdepartment@rockland-ma.gov. And that's spelled CLERKDEPT@rockland-ma.gov by February 28th. So then moving on to the Healthcare Worker of the Week, I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully you're looking at the Healthcare Worker of the Week. And this week it is Darlene Jean, a certified nursing assistant. And Darlene lives in Brockton, and has been with Webster Park for a little over a year. Darlene is reliable, thoughtful, and helpful. And during this year and throughout the pandemic, she showed bravery every day. She cared for her patients and never called out once during the first and the second wave of the virus. She stayed and helped with whatever she could do to ensure that our patients, residents, and staff were all okay. And this was submitted by Daniel Cohen Brothers, the administrator of Webster Park. So we want to thank Ms. Darlene Jean for everything that she does for the residents and the staff and the visitors at that building. If I can continue, Mike, I'd like to go into the new town website. So as we've publicized a bit and we've now gone live, the town has a completely brand new website. And I'd like to share my screen and go through a few of the features for the public to see. But before I do, I just want to say once again, just a big shout out and thanks to our IT director, Eugene Gingras. He did an unbelievable job getting this done very, very quickly. And it was really a yeoman's effort. And we're very pleased with the outcome. I want to highlight when I go through some of these features that, it just went live. So we're going to find some bad links. We're going to find a few things. It's going to be a work in progress. We're going to continue to tweak it. So if any of you or anybody from the public comes across something that doesn't seem to be working right, just give us a call at town hall, let us know, and we're going to continue to improve it. But for the initial going live, we think we're actually in pretty good shape. So hopefully you can all see the website right now. One thing you'll notice right here in the upper left-hand corner where it says create an account, you can click that button and that brings you right to a page where you can create an account. And we do recommend people do that because it enables you to get a lot more functionality. You can view bids that may be posted online, that type of thing. You'll see this tab here, government. When you put your cursor over government, you'll see a list of all the boards and committees, all the departments, etc. So if you wanted to find the town administrator's office, you can see what I do. You can see my phone number. You can click a link to contact, to email me.
Doug, no picture?
No picture yet. Yeah, no picture yet. This in the upper left-hand corner where it says Town of Rockland with the seal, you see the cursor turns into a hand. That's the same thing as a home button. So you can always click that and go back home if you'd like. And this not just departments, but also boards and committees. So for example, a lot of people are interested in the Zoning Board of Appeals. You go there, you can find out the current members, recent agendas. And this is a really super tab we have here. Click this link for current projects. You can see all the projects going on now. I know 365 Concord Street's a hot one with a lot of information available. Shingle Mill, we have a lot of information available there as well. You can see when you go over the community button, there's all different types of shortcuts we have for things that are going to be interesting for people. Same thing with business. You can click economic development and planning, and you can see there's all kinds of business documents available. And on the How Do I button, this is good stuff. You might want to look at boards and committees, see where there's vacancies. It always will let you know if you're going to another site. So you'd click proceed, and there you go. That's the list of all our boards and committees. So those are the top buttons there. We have shortcuts here to our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and the YouTube page for WRPS. You can click the search box and search for whatever you'd like. Again, I'll hit this and go back to the home page. These buttons, these are shortcuts for things that we thought were important for folks. So if you want to do online banking, online bill pay your property taxes, that sort of thing, you can click that online payment. Notify me. This is one of the best new features of our website. So to click notify me, you can do this with or without an account, but you can basically select which areas you're particularly interested in, say Board of Health or emergency management, maybe things on the calendar, agendas for different boards. What you do is you select this. You can select to get an email or a text or both. And every time the Board of Health pushes out information, you'll get a text right to your phone or you'll get an email. Or for example, if you're really interested in the Zoning Board of Appeals, if you select that you want to notify me from the Zoning Board of Appeals, every time there's an agenda, instead of having to search for it, it'll get pushed out right to your phone so you'll know exactly what's happening. This is a really excellent feature that we have. Recycling and trash, I know that's always important to everybody, so we put that center on the home page. You can put your address right here, hit search, it'll tell you exactly what your schedule is. I know that's a common question that folks have, but there'll be other information about recycling in the recycling center there as well. Agendas and minutes. There's multiple ways to get at this information, but here you'll see sorted by the different board and committee. You'll see here it's also going to be sorted by year. This right now is showing everything. If you wanted to uncheck everybody and only select Board of Selectmen and search for that, then you'll just get the Board of Selectmen meetings, and then you can click to look at their agenda or their minutes. So that makes it pretty easy. Employment, self-explanatory, looking for jobs, things that we have posted, sewer superintendent, regulatory coordinator, public health nurse with all the related information there. And then bids. If we're posting, say we're going out to bid to replace a roof on a building, you know, those types of things that have to be publicly advertised. That'll all be shown under the bids tab. I won't go through all these, but these are various shortcuts that are things that we think are important to customers, things that we think people will go to frequently. Property record cards from the assessor's database, another way to get to bids. You can submit comments to the town, look at our bylaws, GIS mapping system, a complete phone directory of the town. This is an online form to submit public records requests, another way to subscribe for news, the town charter, and all the details about who holds elected office, both locally, regionally, and nationally. These are different town spotlights here, so these will keep changing to keep them fresh. This one, for example, are you ready to run? Mike, I know you asked for this one before. it's a list of all the different things that are up for election at the next annual town election. So these are just kind of news highlights that we're featuring, promoting, creating an account, a link to the town's recently adopted master plan, just important types of news items. So if you or anybody from the public for that matter has things that they think are important, let us know, and we're going to try to keep the spotlights fresh. Latest news, just another way to keep the site current with the most recent news available in text form. These are our social media feeds, Facebook post shown here, and our Twitter feed is shown here. And then down at the bottom, we actually have two calendars. The first one here, meetings, shows all of our regular board and committee meetings. So you can see today there's a lot going on. There is a Board of Health meeting. One meeting was canceled, selectmen, and there's actually more. So if you click view all events, you'll actually see, everything that's happening. And again, if you were to click on one of those, like the Zoning Board of Appeals, and you want to download their agenda, there you go. And, the agenda pops right up with all the information. So that, I'll go back to the home page. This calendar, we believe, is just makes it much more accessible to folks to be able to, you can click on a day if you don't want to view all, you can just click on Thursday, and that's going to show you, that'll bring you right to Thursday. And then the only other thing I guess I'll mention is we do have a second calendar available called events. So you see the only thing we have posted right now is Rockland Day. This is intended to be more for community events, that type of thing. Could be Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts are doing a fundraiser for something, any type of thing that the community, that's an appropriate, public interest event. Let us know, give us a call at Town Hall, and we can publicize that on the events page on our calendar. And then at the bottom, contact information and some additional quick links. There's also a Google Translate button on the bottom. So for those that speak maybe Portuguese, other languages, or a variety of languages, you can click that and it translates the entire site. I should also highlight that the whole site is completely ADA compliant, which our previous site was not. So again, a huge thank you to Gino, our IT director, for getting this all together, and all the town departments, both the department heads and the staff put a lot of time into this, because as we keep this current, it's not just Gino or me that's updating the site. It's, all staff are updating their own respective pages. You'll see a few departments like police department, library actually have very robust pages themselves within this template. And so we're pleased. I hope you are too. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you have, or I can just keep going.
Anybody have any questions for Doug? Comments?
No, I think it looks awesome. I love how on the different projects, especially before the zoning and the planning board, Doug, you can see all the information, all the correspondence, all the public documents. It really shows how transparent the town is working to be, and I think that's extremely important. So thank you, and thank you to Gino especially.
Yep, great. Thank you, Mike. And again, I just want to repeat one last time, we're going to find little glitches. We're going to find things that could be improved or tweaked. So as you or anybody has feedback or comments, let us know, because we do want to make it as good as possible. The last community announcement I had is similar to last year. We're going to do another photo contest where residents can submit their own personal photos of the town, of the community, to be chosen to be on the front cover and the back cover of the annual town report. So I put on the agenda the exact email address for Sue Ide in our office. Please email them to her by February 19th, and we'll select the winner to be on next year's annual town report. And that is all I have, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Okay, agenda item number 3, minutes, open session minutes of January 5th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the open session minutes of January 5th, 2021, Mr. Chairman.
Second. And a second. All those in favor? Vice Chairman Ryan?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Nyman. I do it every time. No, for some reason, Mary,
Trying to get rid of me already?
but I'm not the only one. But for some reason, it's always right to the left of me. Is Larry. So
Whatever.
all right. So I got a yes from Larry. Vice Chairman Nyman.
That's a yes for me as well.
That's a yes from you. Mr. Penny
Yes.
and Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And myself, that's approved. Next on the agenda, new business, CDBG subordination requests. Doug.
Sure, thanks, Mike. You'll see there's a lot of detail in your packet with a memo from Wayne Dara, our CDBG program director, and they are with all the associated backup recommending approval of a former housing rehab client that submitted a subordination request so that they'll be able to refinance their mortgage and take a little bit of cash out. They have all the detail in here to make sure that the loan to value ratio is still acceptable. And they recommend the board do it. I know you guys have done this in the past, so I think it's totally fine.
I'll make a motion that we approve Wayne Darrow's request.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Vice Chairman Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes, and I'd like to just thank Wayne for doing a great job. He really takes care of this business and is on it all the way. So thanks, Wayne.
And Mr. Mullen
Yes.
and Mr. Penny.
Yes.
And myself. Okay, moving on. Mass DOT Route 3 billboard invitation to bid. Doug.
Thanks, Mike. I want to start by just making clear to everybody, there's no action that the Board of Selectmen needs to take on this item at this time. This is purely informational, and I know that we've discussed this in the past, so I think it's really more for the public just to understand, because this will literally be a very high profile issue. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see this is an invitations for bid document that's come out from the Mass DOT. So the Mass Department of Transportation owns, obviously they own Route 3 and either side of it up to the road layout. And you'll see the area highlighted in yellow, there's a billboard area. This is just off of what was formerly exit 14. So it's kind of behind the Home Depot, behind Pond Street, where that neighborhood is. There's an area of land that the state DOT has put out these invitations to bid to sell the land to a buyer for the purpose of constructing an advertising billboard. And so it's high profile, it's going to be big. Hopefully you can see here as I scroll down, can you see those dates on the bottom there? So there's the deadline for submission is January 29th at 10 a.m. So I put a lot of information in your packet for this, again, just purely informational. One of the questions, that's come up is, do we have to allow this? Can we prevent it? But as many of you know, because you were probably instrumental in the crafting of it, the town adopted a zoning bylaw specifically for this purpose in this specific area. So it is allowed by special permit, and it does require a host community agreement. I know many of the board members here probably helped craft that language when it was presented. So there will need to be a host community agreement if they successfully are able to convey the land, and they'll obviously will be bringing cash into the town. Revenue will come into the town for it. So there will be a very thorough process that will follow our zoning bylaws. I just didn't want any surprises. I just wanted everybody to be aware that this invitations to bid is out there, and it's going to be a high profile thing. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you have. I don't know if I'll have any answers, but I just wanted to put that out there.
So Doug, I just have a quick question. I'm looking at the map that you provided, and it looks like, I don't know if you, it looks like the spot is not actually in the neighborhood per se. I just wanted to correct that, because I think you said in the neighborhood, but I think it's more across the street between Pond Street and the highway itself, right? If I'm
There we go. Can you see that on your screen?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. No, thank you. I'm sorry, Mike. Yeah, it's better to be more precise with my language.
Well, no, it's just with the
no, you're
neighborhood specifically,
No, you're 100% right. I guess what I just meant was more the general vicinity of the larger area, kind of between the highway and Home Depot and Pond Street.
So that spot,
But it's
that spot looks like it's just before the opening of Assanippi Park.
Yes.
So on
yeah,
the left
actually,
side-
just before the building that's to the opening
Yep.
there.
yeah,
It's
so-
that lot it's kind of by itself, and there's nothing really there.
There's no
Most of
abutters,
it, I think, is going to be visible from the
the
more
highway.
from the highway than
Yep.
anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, Doug, because I
That's
know that that neighborhood is keenly interested in the meetings, specifically as of late. So just want to make sure that we don't scare them that there's something else coming to them, you know?
No, it's a fair point. Fair point. And
Fantastic.
that's really all I had. I just wanted folks to be aware of it.
Anybody have any questions for Doug in regards to the billboard? Okay, all right, and moving on. Other new business not reasonably anticipated.
I have none.
Okay. Old business, CARES Act funding update.
Thank you. So, Mike, you had asked me to give a high-level update on our CARES Act funding. I want to just start by saying, and I'm going to share my screen and share with the public what I've included in your packet. Most of the state, the federal money is all related to reimbursement for direct expenses related to COVID from the federal government. Most of the state, it all flows through the state government. We're different in Plymouth County, and Plymouth County opted because as a region, they were large enough to apply for those funds directly from the feds. So the town of Rockland, as well as every other community in Plymouth County, we apply to Plymouth County for the funds. And I say we, it's really Biz who's been doing all the work. But it's worked out. So I'm going to share my screen. And while I'm doing that, I think a couple points I want to make. The first is this is not sort of free money that could be used for any purpose. And it's also not, this is really important, this is not money that the town could use for revenue replacement. You know, we're like every other community, we really have taken a big hit in our budget as, you know, meals tax and rooms tax and excise tax, a lot of our local receipts have plummeted, and every community across the country is facing this. There was a lot of talk about whether that money could just go right to town's general funds, to the general fund to, you know, replace that lost revenue, and that's not what this is allowed for. This is solely for reimbursing direct expenses related to COVID, and they have to be things that were not previously budgeted for. So for example, I'm just making this up, but for example, we have included in the budget the salary of our health agent. So, but the health agent, of course, is spending 24/7 working on COVID. We can't just take the whole health agent salary and charge it to the CARES Act. They won't allow that because we already had that expense budgeted. So it can only be for new things above and beyond. So hopefully you can see the shared screen, and you'll see that I have highlighted in yellow, Rockland, our total allocation from the county was 2.8 million. And you can see it's a, you know, sort of reasonable number. Brockton is obviously the largest at 18 million. Most of the other towns are in the $1-3 million range. You see Plymouth is a lot larger community, so that's why they're bigger. The county split it up into phases. That's just how they were kind of doling out the money. But the main point is our total allotment is that 2.8 million. This next page, I know the numbers are small. I'll try to zoom in. What we've actually received cash so far, or by check, obviously, but actual monies so far, we've received 367,000. But what Biz, you know, the way we do it is all the departments submit their requests to Biz, and then Biz goes through the process with the county and sort of pre-screens with them to make sure that these requests are eligible for reimbursement, because the last thing we want to do is purchase some kind of equipment or supply or something, be on the hook for that, and then have it get denied later because it's was deemed to be non-reimbursable. So Biz has done an excellent job about pre-screening everything with the county to make sure it's all okay. So what this pie chart represents is, I believe, around 1.9 million in total requests that we have in already submitted thus far, and it's broken out in the categories that the CARES Act requires. So everything that we submit has to be put into one of these buckets. So you can see the smallest one is called medical. It's basically just medical supplies. You see under public health, it's a lot of PPE, you know, the personal protective equipment, sanitizing, disinfecting, that type of thing. Payroll, payroll expenses, remote learning, additional cleaning, things related to that. Under compliance, a lot of telecommuting, remote learning, equipment and supplies. Economic support category, to the extent that we've had layoffs and furloughs, unemployment, we've been able to take unemployment and charge it to the CARES Act, which is extremely helpful. And then another category where there's legal, storage, other technology, et cetera. The other big point I want to make is, we have the 70-30 split in town, which has been a very helpful tool in my short time here. We share revenue 70-30, we share, cuts 70-30, et cetera. So out of everything that I've shared with you and everything you see here, actually over 70% of all this revenue has gone to the school department for all of their direct COVID expenses, as broken out in all these appropriate categories. So I know it's a high level. I hope that's what you're looking for. And Biz is on this meeting if you had anything more specific that you wanted to ask her.
Open it up to questions, anybody?
I just have one question, Doug. What phase, in terms of the prior slide that you had, what phase are we in is the county in right now?
Biz, you want to chime in on that? Are we on phase 5? We can't hear you, Biz. At least I can't hear you. Whoops, technical difficulties. Well, we'll let Biz, we'll come back to that, I think.
No worries. It's not urgent. I can follow up offline too. That's fine.
Sure. I should have mentioned earlier that initially the CARES Act was set to expire on December 30th. So everything had to be, 100% complete and expended by December 30th. Then at the 11th hour, Congress extended it. So we now do have another 12 months to fully expend the funds. We are setting some of our funds, meaning the town's 30%, aside in preparation for when the vaccine does come out and we have to ramp up our emergency dispensing site. We may, the vaccine will be free, but there may be a lot of ancillary costs, whether it's storage or hiring nurses or details or, PPE, that kind of stuff. So we are keeping some in reserve for when we do the vaccines.
Can you hear me now, Doug?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. All of the phases, they continue to roll into one. So we aren't particularly in a single phase. It's different than it is at the state level for everybody else other than Plymouth County and the city of Boston. So our money is just rolling balance. We don't have to stop and say, this is my phase I'm filing for. It's just chronic.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I do have a question. We've got just under 400,000. I know Plymouth County has the money. We've submitted about 1.9 million. Do we have any idea on when the next checks are going to come and when, the requests, when the money will actually meet what the requests we put in for?
Well, the county at my last meeting, they were about 3 months behind because they not just have the town of Rockland, they've got every community in Plymouth County that they're working with. And they have to audit everything that we send them. And then they'll kick back for questions. I did request that we get payment for our October submissions. And our October submissions are pretty much our unemployment, which is a large chunk of money. So I'm requesting more money as we go along. And it's a long and daunting process, not just for us, but for them as well. And I have requested more funding. So they're pretty good about getting back and responding. So I believe they approved their checks on Tuesdays is when they usually approve. So I'm hoping to hear something within the next couple of days.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so yeah, I would say just keep sending in your submissions, because from what I've heard from the county office, speaking to Treasurer O'Brien, there is money available for Rockland still out there. So just keep submitting whatever you can.
As of today, I have submitted 2,045,000.
And I also
And
heard that you were, I think, like the second highest in Plymouth County as far as the number of submissions. So,
well, I'm trying to do it by warrant, by school, by town, so that,
yep.
because I have to segregate it out. And so that the selectmen know, we also have to pay for the water, the sewer, and the vote tech. That all comes out of the town's allocation.
Mhm.
So the school allocation is a little bit different. So yeah, as of today, I submitted 34 requests for payment. So we got paid for the first 14.
Yeah, I think you're second just behind Marshfield right now, is what I heard as of like 2 weeks ago.
Might be Situate.
Situate was out there, but I think they just jumped
Yep.
up recently. So,
Okay. Well, at least we're getting the requests in. You know, we want the money.
so just keep going, keep going. Like I said, there's money there. So
Yes,
let's
sir.
do it. All right. Thanks, Biz.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on. Town charter amendments update. Doug.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to share my screen again. And the reason why sometimes I'm looking off to my side is I have 2 monitors just so people know what I'm doing. So I did want to give the good news to the public that the first round of charter amendments that town meeting voted is now been signed into law by the governor. So it is now official. So I thought I would just very quickly show the actual signed parchment and just run through the articles, very quick. You'll see at the top here, it's listed as Chapter 331 of the Acts of 2020. The first article, and again, none of these articles or amendments were controversial. They were all, I believe, unanimously passed by town meeting. But we've renamed our youth commission to a recreation commission. So we now have a full recreation department. We changed the name of the appraiser and assistant appraiser to be director of assessing, which is the more appropriate kind of modern terminology. For future town administrators, won't affect me. This removes the requirement that it can only be hired, he or she can only be hired for a 1-year probationary term, which I, again, strongly believe that'll be good for the town and future recruitments. And also codifies the assistant town administrator and the town charter, which again is important in case anything happens to the town administrator. It says what his or her duties are. And then lastly, section 7 removed that very quirky thing that was in the charter where in the event there was an issue with the town administrator and also an issue with any members of the Board of Selectmen in the past, you had to physically have 4 sitting board members to be able to take any action. Now that is no longer the case. There's a good compromise to protect the board, but also protect future town administrators by only requiring a supermajority of 2/3. So it's 2/3 of however many board members are there. And then you'll see on the next page, you'll see the signatures from the legislature as well as Governor Baker. So it's a really good accomplishment. Folks should be proud of that. Related to that, however, that was only the whole plan with the Charter Review Committee was that this was just sort of step 1 in what's going to be a multi-step process. But unfortunately, there's been a lot of turnover on the Charter Review Committee. The committee, as adopted at previous town meeting, was supposed to be a total of 9 people, 3 members of the Charter Maintenance Committee, and then 6 additional ad hoc members appointed by the Board of Selectmen. We did have a full contingent, a full slate earlier, but as of today, unfortunately, we actually only have 3 members that are active, 2 from the Charter Maintenance Committee and 1 at large. So we can have this on future agendas if you'd like. We'll certainly, I think, need to advertise to get some more interest in the Charter Review Committee to keep going. What we've done since we've submitted those amendments that got signed into law between then and now is we've interviewed different consulting firms because town meeting did appropriate funds as for a consultant. We have selected the UMass Collins Institute, I believe it's called, and we've met with them several times. They've met with the committee in a public meeting, and they're now working on a detailed memo that's going to go through some of their initial findings, some of the best practices, and then they're really going to need a full committee to kind of roll up their sleeves and get into it with them. So we're going to need some additional members on that committee to keep moving forward. That's all I have on the charter.
All right, I'll open it up to the group. Rich, obviously you were instrumental in getting some of this going. And unfortunately, it seems as though COVID and things being done remotely kind of slow down our progress a little bit. Any thoughts? Anybody out there that you have in mind, without saying specifically, you know?
Yeah, so I've started to reach out to some people to see who may have an interest. I do think, and it's not just this, it's not just the charter committee. We're seeing at this point, some of the um, positions coming up that are open on the town elections. People, haven't pulled papers. We're starting to see more and more openings on the town board. My guess is this is happening to other towns. We're 10 months into a pandemic. People have been in their house. They haven't gone out. They're worried about so many other things. One of the last things I think at this point is, worrying about what's happening to the town. You're just trying to take care of yourself, your family, and trying to hope you get through to the next day. And I fully understand that. The long-term impact is what I'm a little concerned about. We've seen some significant changes in the town over the last few years. I think for the better. Master plan in place. We've got working on the charter. We had started to see our boards, starting to fill out. We've seen a lot of this in the last 10 months. And I think we're going to have a challenge until COVID is over. The one thing I will say to everyone is, every day the business of the town continues, whether there's a pandemic or not. And I'd hate to see us, after such great strides, over the last decade, start to take a step back because of this pandemic. So I do encourage anyone who's listening to this. There was a call a few years ago for people to step up, and we saw a tremendous amount of people who decided to step up. Well, looks like we're in that time again where we need some individuals to step up. It's not, you don't have to have experience. It's one of the reasons why we look to hire a consulting firm. They're the experts. What they're looking for us is, what do we want in our town? They're the ones who are going to do the meat and potatoes of the thing, but we need to have those town residents to give their opinion. What is the town that you want? So just encourage anyone and everyone to really think about it and participate, even if it's not in the town charter, in other areas. I don't know if I don't think anyone has pulled papers for the vacant Board of Selectmen seat unless it just happened.
Nope.
So there's a lot out there that we need. That's it. I'll get off my soapbox.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any comments? Any thoughts?
No, I think ditto to what Rich had mentioned. He's exactly right. And I'm worried about I think the progress we made as a town over the last in recent years, especially on the charter, efforts, and as Rich had indicated, our master planning, all of that, in order to be successful, it really needs to be resident driven, and driven by the people of Rockland. And I also worry about the impact of COVID on on town involvement, and really what it means on those issues. So I wholeheartedly agree with what everything that Rich had mentioned, and I would just really urge and ask people to think about actually getting involved.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you guys. It's pretty alarming that here we are on January 19th, and we haven't got anybody that has pulled papers for the Board of Selectmen yet. Seems like, I know the year that I ran a couple of years back, my first term, there were 5 of us that were running for the position. I know Rich the year you and Kara got on, there were 5 people. There were 2 spots, but there were 5 people that had
2
shown.
years ago.
Yeah,
Yep,
it was 2 years.
five people for 2 spots.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure COVID's got a lot to do with it. Maybe people just, yeah, I mean, they're busy. Their ways of life have changed a little bit, but from working from home and stuff like that. And to your point, maybe they're just not paying attention, and they just don't know. So
I don't even know that. I think priorities have changed in the last 10 months.
sure.
To be honest with you, I think everybody has encountered something that I don't think any of us ever could have imagined. And I think people's priorities have changed, and rightfully so. And I think they've had to change. Everyone's life is so different today than it was 10 months ago. But with that being said, we still have a town, and Mike put it perfect. The town's only as good as the resident participation. As much as people get aggravated with what the town's doing, it truly is resident driven. And if we don't have residents to drive what we want, then we have problems. We really do.
And Mike, could I just add one thing to kind of dovetail on? I agree with everything that all of you said. But one thing just for the public to really fully understand, this is not just some like intellectual exercise just for like some words on paper because it's like nice concepts. This is like real practical stuff. I mean, not a week goes by where there isn't some issue that's more difficult for all of us here at Town Hall to deal with because the charter is ambiguous or the charter is unclear about something. There might be an issue in a department, and well, who really has oversight over that department? Is it my office, or is it an elected board or an appointed board? And my point just being, it has real practical implications on the functioning, the operations of your town government. So I just want to make sure people understood that. It's not just an intellectual exercise.
And with that, Doug, and I think it's an exercise, I think, with common sense, right? So if you're an individual that you believe you have good common sense, that you become a fit to the charter, and again, as Doug mentioned, we have the outside consultants. They're the ones that are the experts, and they'll do the meat and potatoes, but they need us to direct them on what we're looking for from a town. And I truly, in sitting in these meetings and what we've done, it truly is a common sense driven exercise, at least in my opinion. And if you have that, you would be an asset to the town. And this is something that will 30, 40, 50 years from now will shape how this town is. I can't stress how important the town charter is.
Mhm. All right. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it, guys. Next on the agenda, FY22 budget update. Doug, if necessary.
Sure, thanks, Mike. So we don't have any updated numbers for you tonight. We anticipate at our next meeting, the first meeting in February, we'll have updated numbers. The governor's budget will be out, and Biz will have more actuals, that revenues that she'll be able to use to update our various revenue assumptions. So we'll have more to follow at the next meeting. The one thing I did want to mention tonight, mainly as just sort of like a heads up that this is something that Biz and I are exploring. We want to continue to look a little further into the potential of establishing a town meeting enterprise funds, specifically possibly for water and sewer. So what I put in your packet at the very end was just 2 pages from a Department of Revenue bulletin that just describes what they are in general. And you'll see public utilities like water and sewer are like the first examples that they give of the appropriate types of uses of things like that. And so the reason is, and we don't have to get into too much depth now because we need to do more outreach to the Board of Sewer Commissioners and the Joint Water Works. But it can be very complicated from an accounting perspective. And really, these are kind of separate enterprises that run like a business, and we should be able to capture all of their revenues and all of their expenses, maybe have some allocations out for things like treasurer and accounting and tax collecting to cover our expenses. But then at the end of the day, they should be able to keep whatever retained earnings, whatever surpluses they have, and roll them forward and operate like a business and plan accordingly, going forward. Because right now everything's kind of commingled with these other types of revenue funds into the general fund, and it's just not the right way to really budget for these types of enterprises. And through business leadership, we've been working with the Department of Revenue on crafting new financial policies, which we actually are in the process of getting a complete draft from the Department of Revenue that we're going to review internally before we present it to you. But this is one of those recommendations. And it's something I think Biz has experience with it in the past. I know in Sandwich, in my prior town, we had a couple of enterprise funds, and it's something new. Town meeting will have to vote to establish them, and then each year at town meeting, instead of just a regular department within a budget, it's a separate vote. But it really is a more appropriate way to do it. So that's probably the biggest policy thing we're looking at. I don't know if we'll have time to really vote it at this town meeting in May or not, but we're going to try, and it all depend on how the discussions go with those other two entities. I don't know, Biz, if you want to add anything to that or correct anything I said.
Everything you said is absolutely right. I think the most important thing to realize is how we report stuff right now for the water and the sewer will remain the same. It's more how we're reporting it at the state level with the DOR, because our funds are somewhat intermingled. So we need to separate those out. And if you have a chance to read the paperwork, there is one section there that says why you should separate financially, because the enterprise funds, as they stand now, they're commingled with the town fund, and essentially the town can take the income from those funds, and we don't want to do that. We want to keep them separate for the pure books.
So I got one question on that, more
Sure.
on the joint water versus the sewer.
Mhm. Yep.
If we went down this road, obviously, the commissions have to be on board. Would the
Correct.
town of Abington also need to vote this and be on board as part of this, where it's a joint entity?
No, because Abington should do it, and it's something that can be discussed with Abington. But we have our own waterworks. We have the Rockland Waterworks, and then we have the joint waterworks. And right now, the Rockland Waterworks is commingled with the joint waterworks. So we're in the process of separating the two, so we can actually see, well, how much is Rockland's operating for this? Because we can't say this is what Rockland spends. So we're separating them out, making two separate funds, and making it a little bit clearer if you want to see exactly what's going on for Rockland, exactly what's going on for the joint.
All right, so that was kind of my question. I know that the funds are commingled now. That's why I was asking, would Abington have to do it, or, all right, so separate it out to Rockland and then, okay, gotcha.
Right, and then Abington would declare their own enterprise fund, which as we get more into this, I'll talk to Sue Moquin, who's the town accountant over there, and the assistant town administrator, assistant town manager, and see if we can get them on board as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds good. Moving on. Other old business not reasonably anticipated. Doug?
I have none.
Okay. Town administrators report and correspondence. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. So I already mentioned at the beginning, but I'll just mention once again that the town meeting warrant will open tomorrow, January 20th, and it's scheduled to close on March 12th. I also wanted to mention that we're just starting now to schedule all of our union negotiations. They're all set to expire on June 30th. So we're working with our labor council to try to get the schedule set for all those various bargaining units. Later this week on Thursday and Friday, I'm going to be pretty much on Zoom all day. The MMA's annual conference this year is being held virtually because of COVID. I'm not sure if any of the other board members are doing any of the workshops or sessions either, but I do plan on trying to hit a lot of those. I think I usually get a lot of good information out of the MMA annual conference, so I'll be doing that at the end of the week. I think I may have mentioned earlier before that I've been working with the town treasurer, John Ellard, and town council. We're now finalizing a contract with a professional auctioneer that's going to handle all of our tax title auctions for the upcoming year. The one that we know we're going to do for certain is the house at 49 Custer Street. I think the public will see that auction relatively soon. That should be a pretty easy property to sell. We've also discussed in the past the possibility of selling currently vacant lot at 1088 Union Street. I do want to have a few more discussions with the board about that one, but I think the treasurer could likely have some additional tax title properties that we could move in the upcoming year. So the way we solicited bids and the way we're structuring the contract is they'll handle it for the whole year. Another item I wanted to mention, I know this is of interest to the board and the public as well. We've been working with the Board of Health at the possibility, and I just want to stress the word possibility, of holding a COVID-19 testing site here in Rockland. So we're not certain yet. There's a lot of details that have to be sorted out, and obviously running the budget, understanding how insurance can work and what we're able to afford is another matter. But we're looking at this very closely, and we are hoping to be able to have a COVID-19 testing site in the near future. So we will let you know, but I just wanted to let people know that it is something we're working hard at evaluating. Two last items. One is, and I did mention this, Mike, to you earlier, the Holy Family, they are in the process of pursuing a friendly 40B project. So again, 40B is affordable housing, and a friendly 40B is where a developer comes to the town looking for town buy-in through it's called the LIP process, the local initiative process, where the Board of Selectmen, if you agree with and support the project, you formalize that support to the state, and it helps the process move much quicker. So in just real broad strokes, they're looking at doing 27 units of rental housing that'll be for low-income seniors, and that the low-income aspect of it will be in perpetuity through state use and deed restrictions. So they'll be qualified and they'll be included in the town's official 40B affordable housing count going forward. We had an initial Zoom meeting with the developers. They're very experienced. What they're proposing seems very reasonable. They're looking at some historic tax credits to preserve the exterior historic facade of the building. And most importantly, at this time, they're not asking for any town funding. A lot of times with these projects, they might ask for the town, generally through the Community Preservation Act, to support it financially. They're not asking for any town funds. So tentatively, I need to talk to Mike offline about the dates, but they were hoping to come in on February 2nd to give an overview of this project and see if it's something the board would want to support. And then lastly, in the middle of everything else, I've been working with HR Director Stacy and the Assistant Administrator Jen. We've been working on doing performance evaluations for all the department heads. And one thing that's kind of bubbled up for all of us, as Jen and Stacy and I have been doing these performance evaluations, is just how proud we are of the collective effort, not just of the department heads, but also with all their staff, for how just effectively and efficiently they've been able to provide services throughout this pandemic. And getting to Rich's point earlier, it's just been tough times for the last year. And I know everybody's working hard in all their respective, industries and businesses, but I'm responsible for this one. And I just want to let you know and let the public know that I'm proud of the work that our staff has been doing and continues to do in these difficult times, because we have to interface with the public and give good customer service and keep things moving. And I think we've been doing a pretty decent job at it. I want to thank them. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Just to piggyback on that, any members of the Board of Selectmen that have completed and turned in Doug's review? I'm seeing a few smiles that say that you guys may not have done that yet. Do try to get them to Stacy Callahan. Hopefully, what's the date today? The 19th, Tuesday. Let's say by next Tuesday, possibly. Gives you guys a week. I know we've been talking about this since I think our December 16th meeting. So maybe everybody take a second and just write that down. All right. And with that, we'll move on to Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. Mr. Mullen.
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman, other than to let you know that my email is in the mail.
What? Okay.
Yeah, like my email for the evaluations in the mail.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, I just checked and it wasn't there, but okay, I'll wait. Mr. Penny,
So I think I've said it earlier, just I'll make a quick comment. As we've been talking about, we've got a number of positions that are open coming up for the elections. We've got openings on the board. If you've ever thought of participating in the town government, this is a great time. So I just encourage everyone and anyone to step up and pull papers for, if you want to go after one of the seats or any of the open boards. All right. Thank you.
thank you, Rich. Mr. Ryan,
I don't really have much to say except for thank you to all the town workers for the unbelievable job they are doing. I just want to echo Doug's. They're there all the time. They all got a smile on their face. Every time I go to town hall, it's a blessing. Thank you all. That's mine.
thank you, Larry. Ms. Nyman,
I just want to recognize that someone in our town is stepping down from both the planning board and the charter committee here in Rockland. That would be Jared Valenzola. He notified us last week, and I just want to recognize him for his service to the town and thank him and wish him well in his new endeavor as Plymouth County Commissioner. So thank you.
thank you, Kara. And with that as well, I want to recognize somebody. We received a letter earlier this week from this individual who has got the distinct honor of being really the only person I know in town that has a building named after them. We received a letter from Dr. Rogers, and I'll just read it out loud. Dear friends, with sadness, I feel it is necessary to resign/retire due to health issues from my role in the Rockland Housing Authority. It has been an honor and a pleasure to work with all of you over the years. My best to you all, sincerely, John Rogers. So I just want to take the opportunity and thank Dr. Rogers, who, like I said, I mean, he's got a building named after him. So, I mean, there's not really any other honors we can give him, but he's certainly done wonders for this town in our community. And he'll be missed, and we wish him all the well, best of health for John going forward. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, Vice Chairman Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Penny,
Yes.
and myself. And with that, tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good night.
Right.
Everyone stay safe.